Hello, everyone. To Post Focus, as Nottingham Forest head to Wembley on Sunday to face Man City in a massive occasion for the Reds. How are we feeling about the game? How will Forest line up? And of course, will they win? Joining me to discuss all that and a little bit more, first of all, is Pete Blackburn. Pete, we're recording this straight after recording our Tuesday pod with Kelvin and yourself. So you're a warrior if this podcast as ever. How are you this morning?
Yeah, a bit of Stockholm syndrome, I think. I feel like I've been absolutely abused by you. A few hours sleep and you're just absolutely flogging me to death. But I've turned up and I'm ready to go. I'll try not to be too delirious, but if I start talking nonsense, you'd have to shut me off like normal.
Yeah, don't unionise people on this podcast. I mean, we had people recording on a Easter Sunday, Bank Holiday Monday, 2 pods on a Tuesday. Yeah, so I appreciate everyone who takes part, including Paul Morley. How are you this morning, Paul?
I'm good, feeling great. I was sat amongst the restless locals at Tottenham on Monday, which was great fun. So yeah, just feeling a lot better after that result, and pretty relaxed going into Sunday, I think, as I'm sure we'll talk about.
Excellent. Michael Temple, how are you this morning?
I'm good, mate. It's one of the topics today, the practicalities of train travel to Wembley. Because I don't think I'll ever forget turning up, walking past Hooters and seeing that queue past BBC Roundabout when we were all trying to get down there last time. Hopefully this is going to become more of a regular thing. So we need to get these things nailed down, don't they? I'm having to schlep over to Grantham. But yeah, interested in hearing alternative methods.
I'm driving. I'm going to drive. I can't say that. Absolute car crash, that ironically, that train journey to Wembley in 2022. So yeah, I've managed to get parking near the ground. So I'm driving. What about you, Pete?
I'm also Granthaming, but I live in Bingham, so it's sort of the natural choice for me anyway, to be honest, to Newark or Grantham. Bit of LNER, great. I mean, I don't know if you're getting advertising from these guys, maybe you could line it up, but what a train service. East Midlands Rail got not a patch on it.
Well, I feel relaxed now. Sounds like I've made the right choice, Pete.
Oh, definitely. Lovely line, the East Coast line.
Get in touch. Are you walking, Paul? You live in London.
Jogging.
No, I'll be getting the train into Waterloo and then the Jubilee line up. Actually, there's a number of us, and I'm basically retracing the same steps that I did for the playoff final, which is a nice little pub just off the beaten track in St John's Wood near Lords, which is obviously on the Jubilee line. Get a bit of lunch there at 1:00, stock up for a few beers, and then head up to Wembley. So I know there's a few Forest fans that are doing that. So if you're in there and you're watching this, say hi.
I bet that's going to be a classy boozer if Paul's going there. What are we talking? 10 course tasting menu?
No, very much burger and chips, mate. Burger and chip.
He's at the Ivy, isn't he? He's phoning us off the scent. He doesn't really want us to know where he's going to be.
It's the Duke of York. The Duke of York, and it's a great pub actually. Anyone who's ever been to Lords, I'm sure you would have been tempted. It's a great pub to go after Lords. I was in there first time I went there was after. I know we're digressing a bit here, but after Notts won the one-day cup final when Alex Hales got his 180, I don't know what it was, 10 years or so ago, and tend to make it a trip every time I go to Lords. I'm going there now, so yeah, looking forward to that on Sunday.
2017, the best individual batting performance I've seen, because Notts should have lost that game. Hales was amazing. Yeah. Have you been to the River Cafe, Paul?
No, I haven't. No.
Just rinsing Paul a bit, sorry, but he's a man of culture and he's a connoisseur of the high life, I'm sure. Is that an unfair reputation, by the way?
Mate, I'll take whatever you give me. I'm fine with that.
I've heard about what's in the wine cellar. It's all top stuff. No cheap plonk in there.
No comment.
We battered you a bit, Paul, so I'll let you kick off. Just expand on how you're feeling about the game then.
Yeah, like I say, I'm a lot more relaxed now than I would have been if we hadn't got the result we got at Tottenham. I think it just releases the pressure valve. And I know Mark was talking a lot about this in the post-match show last night, which I caught up with this morning, about Brentford being the bigger game and Saturday being Sunday not necessarily being a free hit, but essentially it's a day out that we can probably all go there, fans, staff, players in a little bit more of a relaxed mindset than had we not got the result we did at Tottenham. So for that reason, I'm feeling buoyant. I think, I know we'll come on to it again. I think Forest fans will be a big differentiator on Sunday in terms of the number of times that City have been to Wembley over the last however many years, and the approach that they will have will be completely different. I think we need to follow the lead as what Newcastle did in the EFL Cup final. Just make it all about Forest, and whatever happens on the pitch, I think we'll all have a great day out and hopefully come away with some great memories.
Is that your view, Temps? Well, I know you dropped in the WhatsApp group. You were nervous before last night's game. Is this feeling like it's not a free hit at all, obviously, but emotionally, there's a lot less riding on it. Similarly to the Huddersfield game at Wembley, it feels different, doesn't it?
There's all of the upside to this game without the downside. I think if we were to lose an FA Cup semi-final and still find ourselves where we're on the league, scrapping for a Champions League place, this isn't necessarily the focal point of the season. It'll become it if we win. There's so much to feel positive about if we manage to get past Man City. So that's how I see it. I suppose by definition that is a free hit. But I'm just going to have a great day out. What will be. Pardon the terrible pun. If we lose, I'll get over it. If we win, I'll be absolutely buzzing. So, yeah, maybe by definition it is a free hit. But yeah, it's a great day out with not the same consequence as a playoff final or an FA Cup final.
Que sera, Pete, or not?
Yeah, I won't use the words, but yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I think, look, I guess ultimately, if this is the destination rather than a continuation of the journey, then it's still been great and it will be brilliant. You know, for me, it's a day out with family and friends and a celebration of what we've achieved and what we continue to achieve as much as it is anything else. But if, you know, and I think we're big underdogs going into the game, and obviously we'll talk about around all of that sort of stuff. I wouldn't bet against us, and if we achieve something brilliant, then wow, it's another great game, another great moment in this absolutely mad season where we just keep ticking off these crazy days and making more memories. But regardless, it's going to be a brilliant day out. So many familiar faces, a real celebration of everything we've achieved, and that's just exciting, isn't it? And like Temp says, it's all the upside, none of the downside. I'm not going to feel any of that stress and tension like I did in that playoff final. Clearly, when the game kicks off and, you know, it's all on the line and there is the chance to have that final experience and go all the way, that there's going to be a hint of that. But like Temp says, there's none of that great fear, and it's going to be fantastic on that train home. I think, regardless, as long as we don't leave that pitch with masses of regrets, and you know, this is a Forest team that you expect to go out and give it everything, regardless of the result. So positive, excited. As I said in the episode we've just recorded, my biggest issue right now is how I focus on anything and do any work, because all I can think about is Sunday.
To what degree, I'm going to look at the bookies odds while you answer this, Paul, but to what degree do you think we are underdogs when you consider we're missing Yates and Williams, probably missing Olorina? We'll hear how that pans out and we'll discuss our lineups. City feel like they've turned a bit of a corner to me. Like, I don't know if he stumbled into it or did it deliberately, but playing O'Reilly at left back seems to have made them better in the centre of the pitch as well. How much of an underdog do you think we are?
Yeah, I think we are underdogs. Clearly, I think Kelv mentioned it on the show on Monday about how, or Tuesday, how you know, City's experience of playing at Wembley, you know, managing the moments in those games will undoubtedly mean that they go into the game as favourites. But like the guy said, we don't have anything to fear. I mean, it was only 6-7 weeks ago that we beat them. So, you know, we can take plenty of confidence from the last outing against them. All the pundits will be expecting City to win. You know, again, I think as Kelv said the other day, you know, is this their only chance to win a trophy this season? So, you know, effectively the pressure's all on them, which I think suits us. So, yeah, we're not favourites, but you know, how many times have we said that this season and come out of it on top? So I don't think that will bother us one jot. It certainly doesn't bother me as a fan. I'm sure it won't bother the players. You know, they'll be drilled, disciplined. They'll know what they need to do in terms of, you know, combating whatever threat City pose, and Nuno will have them prepped to within an inch of I guess as much as they can be perfection, and they just got to go out and execute that. And as Pete said, if that ends up being that we put in a great performance and actually, you know, just come out on the wrong side of it, then so be it. But yeah, no fear. Again, like I say, fans, players, staff can all approach it in a way of, in a confident way, but one without fear.
Pete's dropped in the chat here. City is 7-10 on, Forest more than 3-1. So probably not overly surprising. So part of you think, oh, I'd rather we were playing Palace, Temps, when I'd fancy us much more? Or is this a game you think, well, pressure's off, but I think we can still win it. We've beaten them before. So we've got a harder game. It's okay. Or would you have rather played Palace?
I'd rather had the easier tie in the semi-final. I'm sure there's argument out there that you beat the biggest dog in the semi, and then you can enjoy that day out even more. I'm not so sure about that. I think qualifying by any means through favourable draws, through home draws, throughout the competition has been important. And even then, the games have been tough. Penalty shootouts have been a frequent feature of us getting to this point. If it comes down to that again, then we'll have had fair value for our ticket, won't we? But it's not a classic Man City side at the minute. It's a side in transition. It's a side without Haaland, without Edison, Rodri out for the season, Ake and Stones. They have injury problems. They've integrated some new players that have come along in January. I think Kusanov, maybe Jory's out to a point. He's had a couple of mistakes, and Marmoush is an absolute smash hit. It's a dangerous side. Phil Foden can cause damage. Kevin De Bruyne might play. There's so many facets to this Man City squad, and the range of outcomes for them are huge. I don't think it'd be a massive surprise if Forest beat them in 90 minutes. Everyone's seen the league table. Everyone's seen the results that we've put together. And even in recent times, 2-0 down against Palace, third goal ruled out through VAR, that they're not rock solid. So those odds that Pete mentioned before, I think provide value for Forest, but we're more than comfortable in that underdog position. But to answer your question directly, yes, I'd rather be playing Palace in a game that I'd really fancy us to win to reach the FA Cup final.
What do you think about City's opponents, Pete? Like I say, I think O'Reilly came on against Bournemouth at left back, and they looked a lot better. But then, as Temp says, I mean, they were awful against Man United in that Manchester derby. They could easily have lost to Palace. I don't think they played very well against Everton at the weekend. There's kind of a City tax, ironically, that you view them in a different way than necessarily they are, do you think, or not?
Possibly. I mean, they're probably the best version of their 24, 25 selves right now, I guess. But I don't think that's saying an awful lot. And as Temp's just covered, that list of players, I mean, there's no who are injured. There's no aura about this side right now. There's no sort of air of invincibility, and that's what those best City sides had, right? You knew that they were going to come and play against you with incredible intensity, and then just absolutely suffocate you with relentless possession. And eventually, it would tell, because they were such a good team that you just hardly anyone could do that for 90, 100 minutes and cope with it. Eventually, something would creep through, even if you're at your very best. This isn't that City team whatsoever. I think this is a City team that needs players to come up with moments of magic to beat you still. I don't think they're going to kill us with that relentless possession. I don't think they've got the players that mean that eventually that will definitely tell. I think realistically, it's just not a big ask to imagine Forest coming out of this game having frustrated that Man City team and taking it all the way, whether it's extra time, penalties, whatever. I can imagine so vividly in my head a frustrated Phil Foden who's just not being able to find a way through. It doesn't seem like a difficult script to write. And whether we're favourites or not, clearly we're not. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it just doesn't feel like a big leap. Whereas 12 months ago, that would have been a huge leap. It would have had to be the performance of our lives, every player on the pitch. And they'd have to have an off day. I just don't think it is that now. They're much, much less infallible. Well, they're not infallible at all. They don't have that feeling of invincibility. They've clearly got brilliant players who can hurt you. But in a way, it's sort of the perfect matchup for us. We know exactly what we're going to do. We're going to be insanely narrow, insanely compact. We're going to pack the middle of the pitch as much as we can. We're going to let them have it out wide and deep. And we're going to defend our box with our absolute lives. There's a blueprint there that we've run. We've run that simulation so many times this season, and generally speaking, we come out in a pretty good place. We've done it against better teams than this Man City side. Did it against Liverpool, who were streets ahead really of this Man City side right now. And I just don't think there's any reason why we can't do it again. We know exactly what we're going to face. We're going to face an awful lot of possession. They still have the most possession in the Premier League and the most accurate passes and all that sort of stuff. But they just don't have the sort of brutality and the relentlessness of old City teams. So I think there's something there for us. The difficulty really is that we're not anywhere near full strength, or certainly we're a little way off full strength. So it's going to be a big old effort to get there. But it just feels like something you can imagine happening.
Sorry, just does something else.
Yes, go for it, Paul.
Sorry, I was just going to say, obviously, we were obviously recording this prior to the City Villa game. And obviously, there's a whole range of outcomes that affect both of our narratives, both the Champions League narrative and obviously the Cup game. So, on the one hand, I think the consensus is that from a Champions League race perspective, we want City to win tonight to kind of keep Villa at arm's length. On the flip side, if it goes the other way, City go into that semi-final outside the top 5 with a huge amount of pressure associated to their league situation. I know they've got some favourable fixtures coming up, but still. So, that is another sort of side plot that, as we record this, we're yet to see develop, which could have a bearing one way or another in terms of the mind frame or the mindset that City go into that game on Sunday.
Just on that, I've actually just had a message from a chap in one of the groups I'm in who I try and be relatively sort of anonymizing so as not to give anything away, but he has a pal who works at one of those companies that do all the predicting. I don't think it's going to be too hard to draw that line. And he apparently they ran the simulations for tonight's results, and actually it's the same change to the supercomputer if City win or draw. It's 76%, changes our likelihood of Champions League to 76% from 74%. If Villa win, it drops to 72%. So it doesn't actually seem to affect things that much as far as they're concerned. And maybe, to Paul's point, perhaps that draw might be a bit of a result for us both in terms of the league and the City confidence and such like ahead of the weekend.
Interesting. Just before we pick things up, a few public service announcements for the Trent Navigation. There is a pre-match party at 2 p.m. on Sunday. If you don't have a ticket and you're watching the game at the NAV, the Fun Boy 2 are performing as usual. Disclaimers about 80s and 90s bangers and floor fillers. Free entry, first come, first served, and they are open from 7 a.m. as well, so you can make a proper day of it. If you're travelling to Wembley, you can get your breakfast. If you're not travelling to Wembley, you can get your breakfast and hang around, enjoy the pre-match show and the game itself, obviously. And on Monday, the 28th of April, they are open. It's the men's football varsity match, Trent Union and University of Nottingham at Meadow Lane. There's a pre-match party as well with the Fun Boy 2 as well. So they're busy, we're busy. Do enjoy it all at the NAV. Thanks very much for their support. Let's play a little video to remind you about how good they are.
Not only have they created something fantastic, where they've created like an identity around a pub that had been there a very long time. They've like given it this new lease of life. That's become an extension of the ground, really, the Big Shed. He's so funny, man. That advert. And I tell you what, the pies look great. I'm jealous of people who have season tickets. I'm jealous of people who get to go to the Big Shed or the Trent Nav on the regular. I'm just like, man, I just want to sit in that pub all day. I want to drink. I think they had Bass on tap there. 10 pints of Bass, 10 cobs, a pie. Go home to have the best sleep you've ever had.
There you go. Pete was disappointed to miss out yesterday when Bass was referenced. So I'll let you chime in, Pete, on beer at all.
I could give you a 3,000 word love letter to Bass. One of the great products of this country. First registered trademark. That the red triangle. I think people all probably know that. But yeah, what a beautiful beer. What a great bit of British institution that is. Also, I was going to say, you sound quite old, Matt, when you're reading some of those ad reads for the navigation and the bands that are going to be on, and you're talking about absolute bangers and such like. How old do you think you would feel if you were in the Trent Nav for the varsity game?
Oh God, I periodically drive past the university I went to, and the realization I could be the father of some of those kids now at my age is pretty depressing. Certainly, I mean, I look like absolute hell today as well. My hair, I did try and brush it. It just defaults back to this position. I mean,
I thought this was one of your better hairdos, to be honest.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, Pete's a little more in my vein. I see Pete today looking a little more chill, but Paul's always immaculate, as is Temps. So I'm going to get my hair cut after this.
Well, I was just going to ask if you do a Wembley press box haircut, because looking at that video, Matt Ford looks like you do one.
Oh, I am massively. I am. I would try to get one before we went on holiday for me and my son, but life got in the way, and now it's gone this is no good for people who are listening, not watching. I look like shit. There you go. That's how I look.
I'm not sure it's better for people watching, sitting there at home watching you run your hands
Watching me
through your hair.
push my head down, and it just doesn't do anything. I know.
Matt, a lot of YouTubers wear caps, sometimes backwards.
Oh, wow.
Oh, can you?
You can
That's
wear
how I
that
look with the backwards cap.
again.
You don't go for a haircut, you go for a rebrand.
I do. I mean, it's ironic
Well,
how I have
well.
quite a low opinion of YouTubers, and there's me on YouTube all the time. Yeah, terrible. Right, we should talk about football, not my appearance, certainly. Temps. I want to talk about Wembley Experience for them versus slight naivety for us. I've not looked how many of our players have actually played at Wembley, not too many. And then in the other corner, I guess you've got really vociferous fan backing for Forest and fan apathy, I think is the word for City for various reasons, finances, volume of games there, etc., etc. But we're going to have a lot more people in our corner, as Paul said. How are you feeling about disadvantage versus advantage in those two areas?
We'll make this sound like a home game. Be under no doubt about that. The manner in which we've hoovered up those tickets versus the pleas going out from the Etihad. For anyone that's been anywhere near the Manchester Outer Ring Road since 1984 is now entitled to buy a ticket, and they still haven't filled it. And Man City fans hate this moniker being chucked at them, that it's a manufactured club that came about overnight because of a big injection of cash. But that is the reality. And I think Pep Guardiola and a collection of players did create a bit of a dynasty, are creating a bit of a dynasty in what they've gone on to do since. There's no arguing with the football philosophy and the team that he's put together. But the fabric of the club and the fact that they are struggling to sell out their allocation for a semi-final of an FA Cup at Wembley does demonstrate what it means to these two clubs. Man City expect success. They've had a lot of it. Trophy wins have become a common occurrence. They're having a bit of an off season. Kevin De Bruyne is going to move on as a new generation of Man City players going to be ushered in, and they'll be successful again. This might be the crest of a wave for Forest, but if it is or if it isn't, anytime there's a game that matters, we turn out in force, we clog every train station, we make a lot of noise, and we give the players every backing. So it is a game that means more to Forest fans than Man City fans, as has been borne out. When that full-time whistle goes, come what may, there'll be some red shirts emerging and migrating from one side of the stadium to the other, as there was during the Huddersfield game, I'm sure. So really proud of the reaction from the Forest fans. Not surprised in the least, having seen it myself last time out. And I think it is a stark signifier of what this game means to the respective sets of fans.
What about the football side of it, Paul? They played all these games at Wembley. We've played so few. I mean, it could go either way, couldn't it? But are you worried that we might, as Kelvin said on the preview, the show yesterday, might not show up? Is that a concern or not?
It's not a concern for me. I think, like I said before, I think Nuno will have them drilled. And I think, again, come back to what I said before. Had we not got the result we got at Tottenham, then I think there's far more likelihood that we shrink a little bit and go into the game just, lacking confidence and being a bit off it. But I think that win on Monday should give us massive belief that, that if you'd imagine that the template and the game plan is going to be relatively similar to what we employed at Tottenham. So, that should give the players a lot of confidence. I don't expect them to go missing. And just coming back to what you're saying about the number of times City have played at Wembley, this will be their 28th Wembley fixture since 2011 in 14 years. So I'd imagine that's got to be behind the Etihad, the stadium that they've played at most at. Played average 2 games a year there in the last 14 years. And, obviously they're only going to play every Premier League opponent once away in per season. So, it is almost a second home for them. And like I said before, fan-wise, I think that plays into our hand massively. Players-wise, yes, they've got the experience. But again, Wembley isn't quite, they're not going to be as pumped up, I don't think, as our boys will be. So, for that reason, I expect us definitely to turn up and be right on it on Sunday when the whistle blows.
Let's look at our lineups then. Let's get into those. Pete and Paul have supplied lineups. Temps is going to tell them where they've gone wrong. So just let me bring this up. Shall we start with? Let's start with this one that Pete submitted. Sells in goal. Toffolo right back. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Pete. I know you thought about this late last night, and now you've had time to think about it as well. Toffolo right back. Milenkovic, Murillo, Alex Moreno coming in at left back, obviously because of suspensions. Gibbs White, Dominguez, Anderson in midfield. Hudson-Odoi and Elanga in support of Chris Wood. Talk to us about your thinking there, Pete.
Well, I had to crowdsource it a bit last night because I was stressing out about trying to pick this team with the suspensions that we've got and the various injury concerns and all that sort of stuff. And I had actually written a sort of a totally different solution myself, and then I took a sort of I took a bit of criticism that I presume I'm going to get again from Temps in the group that I was talking about it, and ended up coming out with this. And I think the reason really is, I think that this is assuming Oleraine is not available, right? Of course. I think the issue for me is that I don't think that there's a team, and Paul and Temps may prove me wrong, and I hope they do, but I don't think there's a team that we can pick, given the suspensions and the injuries, where I haven't got a concern about what's going on in that right back or right wing back area. I just don't think there's an answer to it that is sort of particularly satisfactory or doesn't give me any heebie-jeebies, I guess. The obvious or the instinctive choice for me was, well, look, I think Dominguez could maybe go and do that job, but then the more you think about it, we've seen him put in that position before. Recently, it was pretty grim, to be honest, and I don't blame him for that. It's just a very awkward thing to be asked to do. I also think we lose a lot with Dominguez going from central midfield and going into that area, and then particularly given the opposition, you're going to be facing Doku. Maybe Grealish coming on for Doku. You're asking somebody who's just not a fullback to do an awful lot of defending against the sort of the highest volume dribblers, and I just think it's asking too much. So I think my answer is put a fullback in that area who is someone who's used to defending against those sorts of players, who knows that art, that skill. It's the least worst situation, I think.
If Oleraine is available, who's your left back, Pete?
Oh, what a lovely question. Well, I think it's hard not to give Toff the gig after last night. Assuming that he can walk, we referenced his post-match interview on the podcast yesterday or Tuesday or whatever this is going out, and he did seem to be quite concerned after that remarkable goal line clearance that he might not be able to even get on the team bus or get into bed after. So let's see how he is. But I thought it was a pretty special performance from a bloke coming properly out of the cold. I mean, I'm no professional footballer, but I can't imagine how difficult that is in a high pressure environment, having just played so little football. And I mean, instinctively, Alex Moreno would have been an obvious pick for me before last night, but it feels hard to imagine that Toffolo hasn't earned that spot. And whatever the context is for Moreno not getting the gig originally, I presume that hasn't changed. Unless Kelv was right, because Kelv suggested that maybe it was a case of them both having to perform in the game and Toff needs minutes in his legs. Hard to know, right? We just don't know. But I presume after last night, it's probably Toffolo's shirt, and I think he showed that he can come and do a job for us. So yeah, that's where I'm at with the team. Really, I think you've got to have bodies in that midfield area. I'm a bit wary of Denilo potentially coming in and maybe struggling against a team that presses with a bit of intensity and will get bodies around him. He looked good again last night, I thought, but his weakness really is, I think, when teams get in amongst him and he can be put under pressure. So I think it's sort of a no-brainer for me to have Dominguez in that central area with Gibbs White and Anderson. We've seen them work pretty well there as a sort of a three with Dominguez perhaps inverting and such like in recent weeks, and I think we need the bodies there. I also think we need the threat out wide of Elanga and Hudson-Odoi, because where are City weak? Counter-attack and out wide in those full-back areas. The defence is, it's not a special defence, and I think we can hurt them. You've talked about Nico O'Reilly's come into the team and done well, but he's going to be high up the pitch. He's probably going to be inverting a bit. There's going to be space there for Elanga, who I would have on the right rather than the left. There's going to be space for Elanga to get in there. So look, it's not ideal. I'm not claiming it's ideal, but I'm not sure I've got a better solution. But maybe Paul has.
And just before we come on to Paul's team, and we discussed this last night, and I'll ask you guys as well now. We're recording this before Nuno does his press conference, and maybe he says Oleraine is out. But if Oleraine is available, Mark Paul was adamant he wouldn't pick him. and he would save him for Brentford because it's the bigger game. But when you see that team and you see your team, there is a gaping hole at right back. Would you play Aina if he's available, or would you save him for Brentford?
No, I think I said to you, unless he's fully fit, then I wouldn't risk him. And I think if he was going to be, if he was anywhere going to be near fully fit for Sunday, he would have been featuring possibly off the bench last night. So I think that gave us a clue that he wasn't involved last night, that he's highly unlikely to be what he would call fully fit going into Sunday. So yeah, for me, I wouldn't risk him. I appreciate, obviously it does leave an Olorena sized hole, which is given he's probably been one of the top 2-3 fullbacks in the Premier League this season. It is a huge miss, but we just got to deal with that. And I think when you put my team up, I guess one thing I would predicate it on was, I think I sent you a message when I sent you the team, in that the reason I went with what I've gone with is that it up until now we'd no evidence to suggest that Nuno had faith in Toffolo, and obviously that clearly probably has changed since it's Monday. So come back to your question about Aina, I wouldn't risk him for this game. I'd be surprised if he even starts against Brentford. I think possibly Palace, maybe even Leicester's maybe a more realistic time that we can expect to see him back. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but the fact that he's not been involved at all would suggest to me he's still a couple of weeks away.
What about you, Temps? And also, what about Eric Silva Morera? Was too much of a risk?
It's not a game for Eric Silva Morera. I think in the past we've been quite good as a club at manufacturing a tidy all-round midfielder into a fullback, a la Jack Colback, a la Chris Cohen. I think other managers do think like that. I don't see it from Nuno. I don't see experimentation with players being played out of position. He could, of course, play 3 centre halves, and Dominguez might be a little bit more comfortable as a wide man in a 5 midfield. But I think it's more likely we go with what's listed here from Pete. I think there'll be huge temptation to play Olorena if he is fit. The challenge is he has to prove that he is. He can't break down, have a calf strain, and be out for 4 weeks from this point. And nor can you really bring him on at half time, knowing there's a fair chance this is going to be a 120-minute, 130-minute game. All told. So I think this team is most likely. We beat Man City at home with both of the wingers playing. It makes Morgan Gibbs-White so much more effective when the game is stretched, the fullbacks are pinned, and he's able to operate in that little bit more space. So I think this is the team that I plump for. And the Marino Toffolo debate, the Aina consideration is what's going to be on Nuno's mind. He does like Denilo there, doesn't he? And when we've seen surprise team selections this year, Danilo's been the beneficiary of it. So I think there is a scenario too in which Callum Hudson-Odoi maybe sits out and is seen as a bit of an injection from the bench if we need it, with Denilo making up a 4-man midfield. Man City do have the relative strength in depth is at Man City despite their injuries, and the impact players they can bring on 20-25 minutes like Jack Grealish will give them that attacking intent, that extra injection. We're more comfortable making defensive substitutions with goals on the board. So yeah, I'm gonna back Pete. I haven't seen Paul's side yet. I'm backing Pete. I think we seek to score, we start the wingers, and we repeat the performance of last night, frustrate them, get ourselves to a point where Morato is a necessary and logical introduction later on, and scrap for a place in the FA Cup final.
Will what was I going to say? Jota wasn't in the squad, and we'll wait and see what Nuno says about that. Well, why he missed the Spurs game. We haven't really mentioned it. Might have been an injury niggle. Well, let's put Paul's team up and let him talk around this. Sells in goal, Milenkovic, Murillo, Morato in a back 3. Dominguez right wing with Gibbs-White, Denilo and Anson in the middle. Toffolo on the left. Wood and Elanga up front. I think the obvious thing is around that right side of the pitch, Paul. Milenkovic is on the right here instead of Morato when it was at Villa. Does that make you more comfortable? Is that your thinking there?
It was. I guess a few things to call out. I guess when I originally submitted this, I had Moreno instead of Toffolo, and then after Monday, I've hastily messaged you to flip it around. I think on reflection, going back to what Pete was saying, I think, back 4 with Toffolo and Moreno both playing would equally be I'd be equally comfortable with. I do think just to go on what Temps was touching on around Denilo and Hudson-Odoi starting from the sidelines. We saw that last night or on Monday night against Tottenham. We saw it in the last round against Brighton. I expect I do expect us to have an extra body in the midfield at the sacrifice of one of the wingers, most likely Hudson-Odoi, given the threat that Elanga poses from a central perspective, which Callum doesn't really do. Then coming on to the $64 million question, which is obviously that right back avenue or right wing back avenue. You say obviously it didn't work against Villa. We got caught cold in that first 15 minutes of that game. However, we did seem to stick with it for most of the game, and actually, once we got over that initial period of it costing us a couple of goals, I think it did settle down a little bit. Yes, you do miss what Dominguez brings in the middle of the park if you're asking him to do that job on the right hand side. So look, for me, this was more predicated on them not having trust in Toffolo and having Moreno out on the left, and therefore this is what I think he might have reverted to. But I think he may be swayed after last night and Toffolo's performance to possibly go to a back four. I think when it comes to Danilo starting against Tottenham, maybe there was a half an eye on making sure he's up to speed, given that he potentially going to start on Sunday. So I think there could have been an element of that as to why Danilo started against Spurs over Yates, given that Yates is not going to be available. So again, get minutes in Danilo's legs. So yeah, look, there's pros and cons with both of the lineups we've talked about. I guess what this does do in a sense is doesn't necessarily give us anything to change to. When I mean the Morata sort of template that obviously we went to at half time against Spurs, and that potentially if you go with the back four and you get yourselves 1-0 up and you've got half an hour to go, you give yourself that option, which clearly starting that way doesn't necessarily do that. So it'd be fascinating to see what he does. There's obviously as I say, a big problem to solve and a conundrum to find a solution for on that right hand side. Doku is obviously a concern, whoever he's up against, really, whether that be Toffolo or Moreno playing off the wrong foot or Dominguez. So it's something we're just going to have to deal with. And I think, like you said at the beginning, if we do go with a template like this, then I think I would like to see Milenkovic on the right hand side, which I would feel more comfortable if he was backing up a Dominguez as a right wing back rather than Morata on that right side playing off his wrong foot.
I think Chris Wood's definitely starting for everyone. Pete, I mean, he looks 100% fit. It was an impact injury, I think, not a muscle one. So there's no question of bringing Tyro in for you, is there?
Didn't even cross my mind, to be honest. No. Like you say, he looks like Chris Wood last night, and I mean that, alongside the result itself, that's about as positive an outcome of the game that we could have had, really. Following Everton, where there was a sort of, whether it was just because he was particularly isolated and the team played so poorly, or whether it was about his sharpness, that it didn't quite look like the Chris Wood that we know and love. But last night, he was back, and I mean that is hugely reassuring. And I think realistically, if we're going to get something from this game, there's a pretty good chance that he's going to be on the end of the chance that wins it for us.
Just one quick question, just on the right back scenario, and I'm thinking right back now to when Adam Summerton did his piece on Milenkovic when we signed him back in the summer. I seem to remember definitely mentioning that he had played out on the right a few times. It may have been in the right of a back three, but that he had some experience on the right hand side. So I'm just thinking of this team in terms of if this was on the field, and actually if you mould the shape a little bit, whether you drop Toffolo into left back and Milenkovic is playing a bit more of as a right back, if in that scenario where we're in possession and it goes to a 4-man narrow midfield and Milenkovic is more on the right hand side, clearly that that takes away from what he offers in the middle. But I guess there's also that option if you started with this personnel.
He definitely did make that comment. The only thing I'd say is, for me, there are sort of a handful of non-negotiables about this Forest team, and one of them is Milenkovic in the heart of the defence, marshalling everything. I just think we can't win this game unless he's in there. And I think you're right that the best answer to when we have to play the back three is him there rather than Morata, because it just looks so awkward. But that's the reason why, for me, we shouldn't start games like that, and particularly not games against a team like City, who are going to put Jeremy Doku in that area. He's going to potentially dribble past Dominguez with relative ease, and suddenly Milenkovic is isolated, wide on the right, in a position where you just do not want him against somebody who has incredibly quick feet and could cause us real problems. I just think like I say, I think there are 3 or 4 players in this team that have to be in a certain area of the pitch. Elliot Anderson at the heart of things really needs to be there, I think, in a game like this. Chris Wood needs to be central and in that position where he can make a difference for us. And Miroslav and Milenkovic, for me, are just absolutely non-negotiables. I think that's how we get through this first half and then the rest of the game.
Just lastly, quickly, we spoke about Dominguez quite a lot, Temps. We haven't really spoken about Denilo last night. He's very up and down. What's your view on Denilo of late and starting this game potentially?
Exactly that. I think there's an element of consistency to Dominguez given the style of play. The best of Denilo, he's a dynamic midfielder. He can turn defence into attack quickly, eye for a pass. At times he runs into the box really nicely, and he can get out of tight spaces. I think his floor is lower than Dominguez. He does have bad games in him. He's an easy player to drag if things aren't going quite right. So for consistency, that Dominguez gets the pick if it was a choice between the two. But I see why Nuno likes him. He can play that one-touch pass. He can help us with these rapid transitions. He's an unselfish player. He doesn't look to beat three men. He looks to pass the space and time on to the next player. He's got a lot of good qualities, and he's dynamic. Would I trust him more than Dominguez in a knockout tie? No, I wouldn't. I think we need that element of structure, and that gives a bit more freedom to Elliot Anderson. We know what Morgan Gibbs-White does. He puts a shift in. He works hard, and he's gonna put the lung buster in if he needs to track a man. But he's going to drift. He's going to try and find that pocket of space in between the lines, and he's not going to be as structured. He needs minders. Of course, he needs dynamic minders. You can't have a team full of immovable objects around him. And Dominguez and Anderson are that perfect blend if we're going to have the three. So he gets the nod over Denilo. He's a very, very different player. I'm a big fan of the Denilo highlight reel, but he's behind Dominguez for me on the depth chart.
Excellent. Just a word of gratitude for Home Move estate agents. If you're looking to buy or sell this summer, then do check them out. If you're in the Notts area, they are 5-star rated on Google. Check out the link in the description, see what they've got on offer at the moment, or get in touch with Ben to see what your house is valued at. Ben at homemoveea.co.uk. Very much for their support as ever. Right, I'm going to record the Man City opposition preview in 7 minutes. So any final thoughts? I should really get up as well at some point. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to add, people out there?
Just tremendously excited. I think it's going to be a hell of a day, and I hope it's one where we get a happy ending and we're writing about it and talking about it for many months and years to come. Whether that happens or not, like I said at the start, I'm not too concerned. I think it's going to be brilliant. It's going to be a brilliant celebration of everything we've achieved and what we continue to do this season. It just feels like a brilliant bookmark to take a moment and reflect on all of that stuff and really, I guess, really sort of build on that link that we've got now between club and fans and players and fans and show that in the stands with some serious noise. And I think Temps spoke at the start. I think he's absolutely right. I expect Forest fans to go to Wembley, make it seem like home, and to potentially have a proper impact on how this all plays out. We're going to be incredibly noisy. They're going to be dragging anybody off the street so they can give a blue T-shirt to and a free ticket. And they're going to be silent. And look, I don't want to dig them out too much. I understand. If I was a Man City fan and my football club was, essentially just one arm of a sprawling nation state, then I don't think I'd be that excited about going to the football matches either. So I get it. But look, it's going to be brilliant. And then the last thing to say is proper any other business this, maybe even Mikey Clark level. But I imagine there's a burgeoning Temps fan club out there. No doubt there is, suave, sophisticated chap he is. But he can add one more because every time he talks, my dog comes bounding in and I've had to spend all of his answers stroking her to keep her calm because she's so excited. So, yeah, you can add it to the fan club list.
I did, because I did this so late, setting all this up, I did intend to play the video Temps of you absolutely skying the ball. It will get plays next time you're on. Any final words from you, Michael Temple?
Oh, geez, I've got a few now. First of all, how that clip of me spooning one over the bar and five-a-side has made its way into so many WhatsApp groups that I'm party to and not party to. I'll never know. Gone viral for all the wrong reasons. Secondly, one thing I wanted to mention on the Spurs game, we beat them 2-1. We lost 52-5 on crosses. And there's an interesting Matt Sells interview on Monday Night Football last night in which he said Nuno's key halftime message was, yes, be deep and compact, but we can't bear this many crosses. I think that needs to be addressed, and we need to find a way to get that balance right, given the way that Man City can operate with more traditional wingers and look to change the point of attack around the box. My prime objective for coming on the podcast today, my travel plan has been endorsed by Pete Blackburn, and I have looked into the merits of taking the Jubilee line into Wembley and maybe stopping somewhere east of that for beers and food. So thank you, Paul Morley, for that. I'm excited about Wembley. It's a shot to nothing. Let's go and enjoy this day out. Great occasion, come what may. And yeah, bring on the weekend.
Excellent. Paul, you might see Temps pre-match. Anything from you before we go?
Did you say you got Matt Ford coming on Saturday?
Yeah, touch wood. Just trying to finalise the time, but yeah, he's away at the moment. So yeah. That is the plan. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm going to see him next Wednesday in London. I think I've got front row tickets for a show in London on Wednesday. So it'll either be a joint celebration with Matt or a commiserations, depending on what happens on Sunday. So yeah, looking forward to that. Just one other thing, slightly away from Forest, but linked obviously to the last time we went to Wembley a couple of years ago. We had Joe Worrell lifting the promotion trophy, and just a word to say, I'm pleased for him getting promoted last night with Burnley. I know he's played a bit of a bit part role, mainly been a sort of Morato-esque season for him with the way that their centre-backs have played. But yeah, just sort of call that out. It'd be nice to see Joe Worrell back in the Premier League next season, and hope he gets a good go when he comes back up.
Lovely stuff. Right, we'll leave it there. We'll be back with Henry Winter and Matt Ford, as mentioned. We might have the opposition preview out after this, if not certainly before. I'm going to record that now, and then myself and Greg are at Wembley, and I might beg Pete and Temps and the others to do some pre-match video as well. So be prepared to be rinsed for even more work in the next few days. If you've enjoyed this, do us a favour, hit like, hit subscribe, do consider membership or Patreon, and if not, just give us a lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Paul Morley, thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Looking forward to Sunday. Bring it on.
Pete Blackburn, thank you very much, and Pete Blackburn's dog.
Thanks for having me, and make sure you send that request fairly early on Sunday, because it won't be long until I'm knee-deep in beers and I won't be able to do it, so get the request in early.
I don't know, Beers Pete video might be quite good content, so we might embrace that. Michael Temple, thank you very much.
Cheers, Matt. I remember seeing at the Edinburgh Festival, I won't say the word, but S-faced Shakespeare, where the actors get spanned on vodka and oranges before they go on stage. I think that would be a good theme for a future podcast at some point.
Yeah, when we get in the Champions League. Yeah, we're all in. Right, thanks very much, everyone. Have a good day, and if we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.